Did you have any idea when you woke up this morning that you'd be a back-to-back champ?
I knew it for a fact.
Leighton Berry, 90.
When I was about 15, I just, started getting some testosterone running through me and was like, let's ride some barebacks.
What are the most dangerous parts of bareback riding?
The most dangerous part to me is that's when I basically broke my T12 and L1 vertebrae in a compression and ready to go. I'm next, and then a guy goes out there, something happens, he's laying on the ground, and I'm like, broken bone or not, I'm like, just get out of the arena. You don't want
get your ass up.
Just get up and go. This is a cowboy sport.
You're not making any money. We're not on salary. You're paying your own money to go up and down the road.
Yep.
And if you're not riding bucking horses and getting paid to make and winning, you ain't making no money.
Your bank account starts. You
ain't feeding the fam.
Money starts coming out fast. Come the NFR that year, I wasn't just sitting back watching the NFR. I was building fence and I was working. I had to have some kind of income coming in. So I was like, well, this is just going to make me, hungrier to be back where I was at in January. And then you don't have that much money and you're working your butt off and you're working out and you're grinding and you're like, winning just sounds so much better. So then that's when you come back and the first one you get on, you're like, I'm never going back. I'm never doing that again.
Leighton, appreciate you doing the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun.
I guess, where you want to start? I guess, obviously, y'all know each other.
Yep.
No.
Tell us that backstory.
I knew Leighton Berry as the calf roping animal that just was a beast on the ground with the viper and freaking had the horse that would just pop up in the corner over and over. And then by when he nodded, though, it was done blast.
Yeah.
Ultimate calf ropings, junior high rodeos,
Yep.
WTs, I believe some.
All of them. Yeah.
All of them. Just getting after it, calf roping. To me, rodeo was just kind of roping, like calf roping, team roping. I didn't know anything about the other side of it. I didn't even know his dad was bareback rider and everything. And so when he started getting on bareback horses, I'm like, this is cool. I didn't realize he was going to be the man. It's pretty cool where we came from and kind of where we knew each other from to see what he's doing.
So we'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Starting off, people know you now, bareback rider, dog. Where does it begin for you? Is it, obviously he set you up, but tell us about those origins for you.
Yeah. So, I obviously known Ty since we were probably 12 years old, probably whenever we first met, and same deal. I knew the Harrises from San Angelo, and Ty, been salty from the get go. And, he was definitely a guy that we chased after and looked up to as far as roping calves goes. And, I kind of come up through rodeo, basically whenever they say it's all I ever knew, pretty much that's what rounds it out to. I started mutton busting when I was 3 or 4 years old and got on calves and steers when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Got a rope in my hand by the time I was 7, team rope for a little bit. Started roping calves about the time I was 12. Just that's what I fell in love with. I fell in love with the grind of roping calves and had a lot of friends that I was surrounded by that pushed me all the time. And we had pretty much just a gang of brothers that just wanted to make the NFR. We just wanted to win gold buckles and calf roping, man. It's, it'll always have a part of me. You know what I mean? It's something that I still love to check the standings and see what everybody's doing. And, I don't rope as much as I used to at all anymore, but, it's fun to see the guys that you grew up with and, who came across the line and really stepped their game up. And there's guys that still are trying, but, once I started getting into high school, and really for me, riding bareback horses was kind of at the very start of it was kind of an all around deal. So I team roped and roped calves, and I was right there, always winning first or second, the all around deals. And I was like, what can I add to kind of just run off of this deal? And my dad, Kirby, rode bareback horses for 15 years professionally. And it was always in the back of my mind. And when I was about 15, I just, started getting some testosterone running through me and was like, let's ride some barebacks. So
I love it. What's the earliest, when does it start? Because obviously in Calgary, they have the juniors and they get them start bucking.
Yep.
And then when you're in the youth, it steers, I guess, first. But when's the earliest you start bucking horses?
So, bareback riding is a different deal because it's good to start young and it's good to get your fundamentals young, but you don't want to start a kid getting on rank horses so young that it just, obviously y'all see what it can happen to a professional athlete. It's a rough sport. It's very physically demanding. Personally, me starting at 15, I think was too young. I'm,
Wow.
if I had a boy, I would tell him, hey, let's ride our spur board, ride the bucking machine, ride a saddle horse. Let's do all this. And let's get in the gym and get physically prepared for this. And then when you're, the craziest change is honestly from 15 years old to 16 years old. There's a lot that happens there. And man, I just wasn't quite ready when I was 15. So I went through some injuries that probably, held me back a couple of months, if not years, right there at the beginning of like suffering my first back injury when I was 15 years old and getting on a horse I had no business getting on, pulling me overhead and wringing me out and landing me right on the top of my butt. And and then now I've got a spinal fusion that may have not have happened, may have, down the road, but it did. So little things like that. That's where it all started for me. And I kind of knew literally before I started having any success in the bareback riding that I was just overcome with it. Like the feeling of cracking your hand around in a bareback rigging and setting your feet and like, it's one thing to tie one in under 7 seconds or, win the roping or whatever. It's, the feeling is, winning is kind of always been the goal, obviously. But for me, transitioning over into bareback riding, like stepping off of one and being 88 points just provoked me to levels that it just blew my mind. Basically, I was like, this is what I love. This is what I want to chase. And I did both all the way through college. I roped steers and roped calves, and I'll never not, be a horseman or a timed event guy or, I'll always be a cowboy, but the bareback riding is what honed in to my soul basically. And I was overconsumed with it, still am now.
I saw the change with you. Like you always roped calves good and team roped good and had success in whatever you did. You're just that kind of guy. But like when you freaking started bareback riding, it changed something inside of you. Like you could tell big things were coming for sure. So
what are I guess, because you're talking about 15 to 16-year-olds, I guess you say you broke your back in that injury.
I had a small compression fracture in my spine. Yeah, when I wasn't quite 16 yet. Like I said, I had a horse basically went to buck me off, and I went to get bucked off away from my hand. And if that happens in our game, like you're going to get hung up no matter what. So I was taught like, no matter what happens, like make sure you end up into your hands. So your hand's going to come out. Well, I ended up kind of getting side saddled on this horse, and she was, for a high school horse, she was bucking hard. And I went to just basically nosedive off into to get into my hand so I wouldn't get hung up. And when she did, she basically bailed up in the air, sent my legs over my head, and then dropped me right on top of my butt. And I sat down and it scared me more than anything, because I've never felt that feeling of like having hot legs, like, not like all the nerves get pissed off. And so that happened, and I was in a back brace for like 6 weeks, like I couldn't rope calves. And like now, what's everybody doing? Everybody's in my ear like, oh, you have such, you rope too good to be doing this to yourself. Like you're too young to be doing this to yourself. Like why don't you just stay, roping calves and team roping? Like that's what you seem to be good at. That's what you seem to like. Everybody's just
and what
like,
do you say to that?
Well, I was like, I kind of, obviously it went through my mind a little bit, but I was like, I'm pretty set on doing this. Like I kind of drew a line after the first maybe 10 head that I got on, and my goals, have changed so much throughout the years, but there was something in me that after getting on 10 head of bareback horses where I was like, I want to work at this like I work at my calf roping. And like, obviously I was like, it'd be so cool to make the NFR in 2 events, but I was like, I'm going to be a world champion by the time it's said and done. And maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. It was just something that it was almost like meant to be,
Do you think it's to put it simply, the thrill of it? You got a bigger thrill than
for sure.
Calves.
No, like and it's like it's pretty cool to watch, because like bareback riding used to not be a sport where it was like you're constantly physically training and trying to eat correctly, all this stuff. Like it was more or less like just stay as small as you can, be tough as you can, and
so much just cowboys getting on there.
Yeah,
and
it's just like the game is
not you, but you and your generation guys kind of revolutionized.
It's evolved.
It's been a big part of the revolution
since I stepped into so I bought my permit in 2018. I was pretty well like getting to the point where like getting into college, being on my own. Couldn't really keep any like horses that I thought were good enough to like go pro rodeo on, and realized how much, obviously I'd known how much cheaper it was to go up and down the road in a truck camper and a rigging bag rather than, a bumper pull trailer and hauling horses and trying to do all the events. And I was a little bit spread out, I guess, if that's the right word. And, so that definitely had was partial to me about the finances and everything in it. And for sure, like, it was like I said, things could go wrong. And it was like, I remember things going wrong in the calf roping and I just beat my head against the wall. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, I worked too hard for this. Like, I don't want to lose, but the bareback riding, it's like you could stub your toe and you still had like a great day going to the rodeo with your buddies. And you're like, damn, like, I just got beat, like I got bucked off or I missed that horse out. Like, shouldn't have, but it happened. And then you got one the next day and you're like, all right, let's go. Like, I got a bucker tomorrow. Like, I'm going to make it happen on this one. And yeah, that feeling, like I said, it just kept consuming me over and over and over again. And same to this day, like setting your feet on a bucker and getting off and like knowing deep down, no different than, obviously when you put your hands up there and you look back at the video screen and you see how fast you are, you kind of know if you're going to win or, you got a pretty good feeling about it. Yeah. But it's the wildest feeling to step off of one and be like, I just won, this rodeo like I know I don't know how many I'm about to be, but I know it's 90 plus. And like, you just want to, Superman, you're just like, here we go. Like, I just
you're not even a guy that celebrates that much, dude. You don't even be doing, like, you get pumped a little bit.
I do. Yeah, I think that goes back to, and I've said this a few times, and like, the last thing I ever want to come off to anybody is like a cocky guy, but because I'm not. But it's like one of those deals. If you're not expecting the greatness out of yourself, then I mean, it's at that point, it's like probably shouldn't be competing. But it's one of those deals where when you work up to that moment, when you get to the 4-man at that rodeo, or you're in the 10th round of the NFR and you've worked your whole life for it, it's like if you don't expect yourself to be 6 flat. 95 points, whatever the craziest, not just what is the world record, but something that's beyond that. Like, if you don't be like, I've got this horse underneath me, I've got the calf I want, got the steer I want, regardless of what it is. It's like, if you don't believe that you can just break the world record by 0.4 of a second or 5 points, then it's like, I mean, what are we doing this for? I'm not here to place in the average and win second. It's like, I'll get bucked off trying, or I'll mow the barrier down trying. Like, it doesn't matter what event it is. It's like, I want to win first.
I want to get, there's so much. I want to get into some technical stuff. Okay. So you're talking about dangers and you got into it. You said we're taught never to go into our hand, or you made a comment like that.
Away from your hand. Yeah. Because when you go the way our rigging is set up, like with our gloves, like when you go away from your hand, like you're already pretty locked in there. But when you get away from your hand and it rolls your hand away, you're not going to come out until you get on the other side where your hand can come out of that rigging, right? So it's like, that's the rule of thumb is if you're going to get bucked off, go into your hand, like whatever it takes to not get hung up. Cause that's when, regardless of how well the pickup men handle it, you're still getting, banged around by the pickup man, and the horse could fall down on you. Like, so you're hung to the horse, you know what I mean? So it's pretty not a good idea. It'd be better to just get bucked off into your hand.
Would you say the top 4 or top 3, top 5, or like what are the most dangerous parts of bareback riding?
The most dangerous part to me is being in the bucket chute. I mean,
I didn't expect that.
That's what I was thinking.
That's where, I mean, I've had more injuries happen inside the bucket chute than anything out in the arena. I've been pretty blessed to not have too much happen like outside of the buck and chute. But like I said, I had that little compression deal in high school, and it wasn't like a matter of surgery. It's just like, let it heal, you're young, and I can go back to this later, but like, it's the reason why I turned into what I turned into today, because of what I had to do to come back from that, change my whole life.
40-inch biceps is what you're referring to. He got up there and said, don't get your hand out here. It's just veins, bro.
Ty remembers me. Like, I used to be a whole different weight. Like, I used to have a whole different mindset. I wanted to be the all-around guy that was like, I remember being too weak on the ground. So I was like, what do I got to do? I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger. Yeah. And like, so many things changed, but coming into the bareback riding, like after I gained a bunch of weight and was just lifting weights and eating food, like, running my parents out of house and home, I was like, well, this ain't going to work for the bareback riding. I was like, I'm going to have to cut down on these carbs and protein, and I'm going to have to run and get skinny and learn how to be fast and electric, but still strong. And, that's all back to that first injury that I had. But then later on, after my first NFR, I went to Odessa, Texas, and was actually entered in the bareback riding and the calf roping, like one of the first rodeos of the year. And it really doesn't look that bad on camera, but I had a little horse. Right when I nodded, it really wasn't her fault, but she kind of like lost her footing in the box, and her butt basically went down, that's when it's dangerous. It's not, because I mean, I've had horses intentionally smash me, and you kind of feel it coming and you kind of brace up for it. And I've taken riggins to the chest, riggins, up here or in the guts, and it's not a great feeling. But when the gates open, like it's do or die. Like you can't just sit there. And this horse actually kind of fell down on her back end, and then kind of as the gate was coming open, reared up, and my shoulders were back because I'm trying to stay back. And she got me right on top of the neck, basically. So it hit my back in a way where it just really one time, like not even like a smashing, just like a punch almost, just sent my spine into a compression. And that's when I like basically broke my T12 and L1 vertebrae in a compression fracture, and knew it immediately. Double grabbed, was lucky that I got off of her all right, and then drove home that night knowing something wasn't right, and went to the doctor the next day and ended up having my spine fused. So I went through a whole spinal fusion 2 weeks later, spent 8 months of this 2021 season out, came back at Dodge City in August, and didn't really have intentions on what was going to happen for that year, but rodeoed my butt off, ended up 22nd in the world, almost got another one. But then ever since then, like, it's just little things like that happen to you, that happen for a reason and keep making you better. But the buck and chute, number one, is the most dangerous part. You never know what those horses are going to do. They have them tied in. That's a huge deal. You got a guy you trust that has a neck rope on that horse.
I've seen them do that.
Basically going to try to keep that from happening. But I mean, they're horses. If they want to get away from it, they can.
What is that guy, a 180-pound man, going to stop a 1,000-pound horse?
Right. And he uses the rope to his advantage. He'll have as many, basically when you're running your hand in, he'll have that rope twisted up basically where they can hit the end of it, and it don't matter how strong he is or not. But when it comes time to nod your head,
he has to let it go there.
That can get you in a bind too. If he's got 4 twists in it and that horse is trying to leave there, what's that? I mean, the first time I had a world champion bucking horse called Dirty Jacket in Stephenville, Texas, that's what happened to me. This horse usually has a big rear out. Well, the neck rope guy didn't have all his twist out. This horse goes to rear out and ties itself to the gate. You know what I mean? You end up in the worst scenario. Yeah. So there's so many variables that can happen. You try so hard to be a horseman in there. They're still horses or bucking horses, but they can feel you just like a rope horse does. You got to have a little bit of horsemanship in there with those animals. Or there's horses that are just known to be bad in there. There's young horses. Obviously, every time you're in there with a young horse, it's no different than a young horse that is starting to get blown up in the box or anything like that. You got to be able to calm them down and let them know that they're in a safe environment too. Like, even though your motor's running, you're ready to kick their ass, but you got to make sure that everything leaving the box is clean, because your start, just like the calf roping or anything else, that's the most important part.
So, let me go back for 1 second. So you skim through all this,
bro. He talks about this so casual.
Yeah, I know he's talking casually, like it's no big deal. So like I'm hearing this: you compressed your vertebrae, T12
L1. So basically the center of my back, right below that, middle
of your back.
Yeah,
compressed the vertebrae, and you said just knew something wasn't right and just drove back home. About a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Yep. So like I ended up
with the broke back.
Yeah. Well, I dumped. So like she hit me in it was like, this is why I'm kind of thankful for the first injury, because she hit me and my legs went like not totally numb, but like hot flash, like numbness. Like I knew like I couldn't reach up to mark her out. Right. So I double grabbed instantly. Like she left there. Now I'm thinking like, just don't let her, it's way harder to ride one 2 hands down than it is to be spurring one. So I'm like, and I'm obviously pretty in there. Like, I'm not one of the guys that can just like look off and my hand's just going to come out. Like, I'll get hung up into my hand before that happens. Like, I'm putting so much pressure on my hand. I want to be in there. So I have to double grab on this horse. She circles around to the left, and she was really good, which is what sucked. And pickup man, I told him, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but like, set me down easy. I can't get a hold of my legs. And I step off, and Dusty Tuckness was like right on the spot bullfighter. He was like, knew something had happened, and I hit the ground, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is like people to be like, looking at me, or obviously we got the Cowboy channel. I don't want people like calling me thinking something bad's happened. So I'm like, just like get on your feet and just get out of the arena. And it was all I could do to like, I was having to go in my mind, like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
But is that, so that's the most cowboy thing ever. Like, I know something's seriously wrong. Let me walk out of the arena.
Yeah. Like just get me out of here.
In hindsight, do you think that's the smart decision? Or is that the cowboy decision?
They obviously say like when that kind of stuff happens, it's like, oh, like car wreck, whatever it is, like, oh, it's just stay still. And I was like, well, like, I'm basically, I was already committed. Like I already just rode this horse 2 hands down basically. And like, I can feel my feet, like I don't think walking out of here is going to like change anything. So it's like the last thing I want to do is like that's always been in my mind. Like, even as a competitor, like this sounds bad, but I'm just like, come on, dude. Like I could have a horse pulled, the best horse on him, pull, and like ready to go. I'm next. And then a guy goes out there, something happens. He's laying on the ground. And I'm like, broken bone or not, I'm like, just get out of the arena. Like you don't want,
get your ass up.
Just get up and go. like this is a cowboy sport. Like, and now it's like, what you get in that deal where you're like, oh, do I need to like, cause we try our best to pull these horses accordingly. And like when we pull our riggins tight, like even though we got a good impact gel on them, like impact pad gel, they sit there pulled for too long, and it doesn't matter how good they are, right? They're pulled in half, you know what I mean? No different than a calf horse. It'd be like
just out of breath.
Yeah, well, it's just like they're just not going to be as good. It takes the life out of them a little bit. So it's like when someone's in the arena, you don't know if it's going to be, you don't know how bad it is. So you're like, is it going to be 10 minutes? Is it going to be 5 minutes? Like I'm next, like I need to be ready, but like, is it worth me wasting this good horse, leaving him pulled like this? So like in my mind, I'm like, just get up and go home. And so I do. Like Dusty was right there. I kind of like have him help me get out of the arena. Sports medicine, all my friends, they saw it happen. They were like, something's wrong. Like he doesn't just limp out of the arena like that. And then, I was like, no, I'm good. And I remember at the time I had the 6-speed, 2005 Dodge, and I was just that's what was getting me as I was cooling down, driving that standard down the interstate. I was like getting to where it was all I could do to like push the clutch in. I was like, something's wrong with my back. So that's whenever I went and got it looked at, they were like, yeah, like we need to fuse this, like you need some plates and some screws. And I got it done as like fast as I could. And, it's heartbreaking because I was like, I just made the NFR, like started to get my career going. I was 21, and then now it's like crashing down. And I'm like, like I said, come back in August, rodeoed for 2 months, that was like the blessing in its own, was how well the 2 months, cause he was like, probably take the whole year off. And I was like, but like realistically, like he was like, well, like you need 8 months before you can like tie yourself to a bareback horse. And like, I just rehabbed it the best way I knew. And 8 months on the dot, Dodge City, like first one back was 89 points. And like, it took me a while to get over like the stiff and soreness of it, but like he was like, once it's healed, it's going to be the strongest part of your back. It's steel basically. So like once it's healed, it's healed. And
Odessa to Dodge.
I went to Odessa and then nothing until Dodge, and then
it's not even 6 months cowboy.
Yeah, well, whatever.
This man's cowboy.
Well, Dodge is in August.
The first week of August.
That's eight months.
Sure, that's
August.
It's maybe 7.
Well, no, because July is 7 months. So Dodge City, so Odessa, Texas is the first week of January. Yeah. So I think it was, if I remember this correctly, it was January 8th. You could fact check me on this. I think it was January 8th when I got my back broke. Surgery was not even 2 weeks later. It was like before the 20th. And then Dodge City was like 8/6. So right in that span. It was the first one I entered. It was like, obviously, if I don't get a pretty good horse, I'm not going to go. And I ended up with one that's I've had success on before, and was like, well, here we go. Like, that's the only year I've gone rodeo and like loaded my truck and camper up, kissed the girlfriend goodbye, and set out to I was like, I have no money one. I'm not in the top 50. Like, but I was like, I need to get my qualifications back for next year. I'm not going to get into Houston or San Antonio. So I was kind of thinking about next year, but I was like, what if? Like, what if it happens? What if I'm the first guy that's made the NFR in 2 months, and then I ended up 22nd in the world? I wasn't far out of it, but got all my qualifications back. And then what happened next year? Like, it just all came to fruition, started winning again.
So I'm messing with him about, but I just want everybody to understand that these guys, us going down the road, especially you with all the injuries you deal with, you're not making any money. We're not on salary. You're paying your own money to go up and down the road.
Yep.
And if you're not riding bucking horses and getting paid to make and winning, you ain't making no money.
Your bank account starts. You
ain't feeding the fam.
Money starts coming out
bills.
fast, and very, very thankful for the sponsors that I have that stuck with me through things like that. But our main source of income is like we give our lives to the sport. So it was tough. Come the NFR that year, I wasn't just sitting back watching the NFR. I was building fence and I was working I had to have some kind of income coming in. So I was like, well, this is just going to make me, hungrier to be back where I was at in January. And little things like that happen and you find yourselves in the bottom and you don't have that much money and you're working your butt off and you're working out and you're grinding and you're like, man, winning just sounds so much better. So much better. So then that's when you come back and the first one you get on, you're like, I'm never going back. I'm never doing that again.
So we were talking outside and your little brother around the top 30 he was, and I was asking you, so what makes a guy go from top 30, top 20 to being a top 15 to being a guy who can compete for the world? Like, what separates that difference? And my question for you do you got to be a little crazy?
It's definitely more mental than it is physical, I think. It's pretty neat to watch these guys in different events go from being, say, in their rookie year, which obviously the time event's pretty straightforward. If you're not fast enough, then you're not making money. The rail stock events, there is such thing as paying your dues a little bit. Like when you're a rookie guy and you're just coming around, unless you're just a freak of nature, which there are some of those. Obviously, we've watched Brocker, we've watched Keenan, like guys that just come up from high school rodeo that just seem to not have any kind of, struggles getting into pro rodeo, where like the story wasn't the same for me. It wasn't the same for my brother. It's not the same for most of the guys that I've traveled with. It's like you kind of got to go through your rookie year, your permit year, whatever year you pick to rodeo from like A to B, like from January to October, you got to pay your dues. But after that, it's like for me, I think my rookie year, I think I ended up 27th in the world. Right. So and knew I wasn't good enough to make the NFR, just knew it. I was like, I just don't ride. Like I was looking at the top 15 guys and all year long, I was like, and I won some big rodeos. Me and Ty won Reno that year. That was pretty cool. Like we won some big rodeos. Like we were, a force to be reckoned with, but I was like, man, like what are these guys doing that I'm not doing? And it for me, and it's always been this way. Like I've always felt like I've had to work twice as hard, if not 3 times as hard to get where I want to get. And like that natural, understanding, that natural talent, even from T-ball, has never been a thing for me. It's always rope and calves didn't matter. Like if the guy going up and down the road winning was tying from the posts anywhere from 30 to 50 times, and then I had to tie from the post 100 to 200 times and find horses to ride to run X amount of calves and rope the dummy 1,000 times, not 100 times. Like it was always like that for me. So like I said, to answer your question, coming around and after being 27th in the world on my first full card year, I was like, well, I'm not good enough, but I'm going to watch the NFR. It's going to fuel a fire in me. I'm going to get in the gym. I'm going to get in the best shape that I can get. I understand the entering system way better. And I'm just going to basically refuse to be a top 30 guy. Like I'm a top 15 guy now. So I'm going to start talking like I'm a top 15 guy. I'm going to start acting like I'm a top 15 guy. I'm going to start only letting sponsors in that treat me like I'm a top 15 guy. I'm basically, and if it don't work, it don't work. I'll find something else to do, but I'm never going to watch the NFR from the couch again unless something, unfortunately breaking my back happened. But unless something puts me on the sidelines, I was like, I'll give it my all. And if it don't work, then it's not meant to be. Maybe God's got something else in store for me. But if it is up to me, I'm going to do whatever it takes to never do that again. So yeah, I think, like I said, more than anything, it's mental and knowing that you belong there and understanding that that's where you're supposed to be. And then obviously working towards your goal. And that's, no one else is going to do that for you. You gotta, Ty knows it, like everybody, you know it. Joel Braden knows it. My brother knows it. You got to bust your ass. Like, you got to work for it. You got to know it's no different than a Mike Tyson mentality, a Tiger Woods mentality. I need to be grinding. I need to be working for it. That way, when it happens, and to answer this other question, why I don't celebrate, because I knew it was going to happen. Because I walked myself up to the stage and was like, I knew it was going to happen. Like, I was just like, and I remember telling Keith Merrington, he owns Calgary Stampede this year, and or this year in Houston. And I told him, I knew winning the 12 man in Houston was going to lead to having agent links, and they just won the American on agent. And this horse has been great for years, and I've had a lot of success on him. I just got on him in the 10th round, and I was like, if I'm going to win the 12 man on this round horse of Cervies, and then I'm going to have agent links. And I said, I'm going to be I don't know what I'm going to be, but I'm going to be 90 plus. I'm going to win Houston for the second time in a row. And I told Keith, I was just like, and I think I said 92 for the win. And he was just like, oh, I hope so. And there's all these other great horses, Disco Party. I won it on Yippee Kibitz the year before she was out, like all these awesome horses. And I was like, Agent Links 92 for the win. Let's go. Like, right now, it's going to happen. And he was like, well, I hope so. I was just like, no, that's what's going to happen. Like I said, I'm not a cocky guy, but I said it to one person. I was 91 and a half. I wasn't 92, but I believed it. I saw that moment in my head the morning I woke up having coffee that morning. I was like, this is what's going to happen. And then you speak things, you've already worked for it. So you start to speak things as they're happening. And then the next thing you know, it happens like that and it's over, but you're like, holy shit. Like, I made it happen. I spoke that to existence. I already put the work in. Showed up, talked about it, did it. It's over. Like, Ty's been there and done that. It's a hard thing to elaborate, but once you've been there and done it, and it's like you put it that bluntly, like anybody else can do it. Yeah. It's that blunt. You have to just put the work in, believe it to no end. Basically, be like, I'll give it my all before the alternative happens. Basically, and then it just happens.
So explain to us agent links. You said after you win the 12-man round, you got agent links. Is that you get to pick him, or?
So at Calgary, they have the 4-man. You don't know it until you get there. So we get our draw for the 12-man. And then when you get to the arena, on the wall, the little sheet of paper next to the 12-man draw will have the 4 horses already set. So it's like, first is going to get this horse, second's going to get this horse, third, fourth. And the year before, I remember thinking in my head, for whatever reason, and I've had, like, Yippee Kibitz is one of the coolest little paint horses. They've won so much on her, and I'd won Pinocchio on her. I had her in the 10th round of the NFR the year before I won Houston on her, all the stuff. And she was third on the list, and I remember thinking, like, as bad as I want to win this 12 round, if I could end up third, I'd love to have this paint horse, you know what I mean? And I remember Cole Reiner goes out there and was 90 on a horse that's been in every 4-man this year, was Colt then Disco Party. And he was going to have top-notch Colin Pickett's. And then Casey Field was 89, I think. He was going to have another horse of Colin's. And then I ended up third. I had Shady Nights of Colin Pickett's was 88. And I knew, like, coming out of the arena what I had going into the 4-man, because I already looked at it. And I remember thinking, like, this is perfect. Like, this is perfect. This is perfect. This is perfect. And then, won Houston for the first time on Yippee. And then I remember thinking, like, I was like, why? There were so many negative thoughts coming into my mind for some crazy reason before Houston ever started this year. I think someone even said it verbally. They were just like, boy, like, winning Houston once, pretty cool. Like, be wild to do it twice, it'd be pretty hard to do it twice or whatever. And I was like, why should I do it twice? Like, I could do it twice. Like, it can happen twice. Like, it's the biggest paying rodeo. Like, but let's go, let's do it. Let's win this thing twice. And so I just started saying, because I was like, it'd be crazy to win it twice in a row. But I just started saying it. I had JD, film guy, 8-second takes.
Yep.
And he come to my house to film a little workout session before I left to go to Houston. And I just, like, I told him not to put it in the edit, but I was sitting in my cold plunge and was talking about Houston. I was like, was like, I just got $50,000 on my mind. Like, we're going to Houston. Like, for the second time, I was like, you know, thinking about it, I was like, nope, don't say this. And then like go down there and be like, you know, anything else, be like, nope, I can win this rodeo twice. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. So that's like going into it, just thinking that. And when I won it in 22, I barely made it through my set. In the previous year. Like, by winning one round, that is the only reason why I made it. And then got to where I needed to go, got to the 4-man, got the one I wanted, and it all just happened. Like, it all just clicked.
It's really interesting to me, especially for rodeo, man. We're recording this right now in September, and I was in Puyallup. You look at people's eyes, and I don't know as much as a lot of time event guys, just I'm around them more, but it's probably the same for rough stock. You just see them worn down, glassed over.
Yeah.
It's a hard
It's a long
year.
road.
You can read it. You can read the story in people's eyes this time of year, man. The defeat, whether the defeat or the triumph, whatever it is. I mean,
it's a long road.
But I'm intrigued about the mindset part of it, because you talk about this, and it's not even cockiness. You're just like, I'm going to win and I'm going to put in the work. It's motivational. But you see some guys, especially time event guys, I heard a guy say, he just removes his emotions. He's like, I can't care about it, because if I care, then I care too much. So it's disappointment and all these things.
Yep.
But you have this completely different approach. You're like, I care so much and I'm going to go get it. And it's just like, different mental dynamic.
Yeah, just make it happen. Like, I got a voice in my head all the time that's just like, just make it happen. Like, there are things that you can't control. They're in every event in rodeo. Like, you can't control your calf ducking left as soon as you throw your rope. You can't control, you know, that horse leaving there bad and giving you a bad go and kind of cheating you out of there. I mean, whatever it may be, her slipping, falling. There's always uncontrollables. There's a million things that are uncontrollable.
So, question for you: was there ever a moment when you
doubted it, when you didn't know, man,
when you're like, I suck, I'm terrible, I can't do this?
Yeah. 2 days ago in Puyallup, Washington. Yeah.
That's the crazy part about this sport.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. I had pretty much the worst day of my whole, I'm not gonna say my whole career, but like definitely the whole year. Like, it's been a long time since I've gotten on 2 horses in 2 days and not got a score on either one of them, but it damn sure happened the other day. And like, not saying that I'm coming off a hot streak, but like, I took some time off in August and I came back at Walla Walla the other day, made a great ride, 1 second. Was just kind of picking up, have small injury. That's not a big deal at all, but, just trying to take care of myself before the NFR and all these things. And, you know, I went to Puyallup 2 years ago. I won that rodeo and got on whatever, because like our set, the second set you get on, you know, and both of them in the same day, and then Sunday you come back, same deal. So you end up getting on 4 in 24 hours. And like 2 years ago, no problem. Like, didn't necessarily draw the great ones, but in the 4-man, drew the one I needed, the bucker, and won the deal. And, you know, like, obviously coming into it, you're like, I've won this before, I can do it again. Same deal. And drew, honestly, like on paper, I liked the horses that I had, and they just abused me. Like, I had a little bit of equipment malfunction, had a little bit of a mental malfunction, didn't show up, didn't do my job. But like, you know, you can ask my wife. Like, I was like talking to her on the phone. I was like, you know, like, well, she wanted to make sure I was okay, because like, that doesn't always happen to me. Like, I don't always just
doesn't ever.
Yeah.
Happen.
So she's like, is something wrong?
She's making sure his body's okay.
She's calling me, and
like, you don't have a compressed fracture.
I told her on the phone, I was like, just give me 10 minutes. Like, I'm not flipping my lid. I just don't want to, like, I don't want to say anything to you that I don't need to say. Like, just give me 10 minutes. And like, you know, in my mind, I want to just go punch a hole through the wall, because I'm like, what just happened? You know, like, everything's going through your mind. Like, the devil just like seems to just have you by the throat at this point. You're just telling you're not good enough. I don't care that you're top 5 in the world. You suck. You just got 2 no scores. You just got your ass kicked. Like, you are scum underneath my feet. Like, why are you even out here? Like, all these things. And you're like, you just got to like get the frustration, get the anger, get the negativeness. You just got to be like, all right. Like, just give me a second to breathe, recollect, and think. Then you're like, well, I'm still alive. I'm still healthy. I still got to compete. It's over. I got more rodeos in front of me. What am I going to do to change it on the very next horse I get on? Because that, at this point, that is all that matters. It doesn't matter what I do or what I say or talk about after this. It's what am I going to do on the next one? So like, I haven't even been on one in Like that's written from my mind. That never happened. I don't know who that guy was. It wasn't me. Like I promise you, the next one I nod my head on, I'll stomp him. Like it'll be great. It doesn't matter what the horse does. I'll be going after him as a win for myself. I don't care if I'm 82 points or 89 points. I'm going to be like, I'm going to ride this horse correct from the time I nod my head to the time I get off on the pickup, man. I'm going to ride him for 10 seconds, strong as I can. It doesn't matter what he does. Like, I'm looking for a rider win. And when you stop thinking about all the other stuff that's going on, and like, oh, Piala up in tour finals and trying to get my count and, trying to win a gold buckle or trying to make the NFR, all these guys, there's so many emotions, and the announcers are talking about it, and, the Cowboy channel's talking, everybody's, it's just like, you got to block all that out. It went bad, oh, well, like it went good, great 2 years ago. It went terrible this time. It went totally opposite. Now I got to show up to Pendleton, Oregon. I want to win Pendleton. I want to be the champ here. I want to wear that buckle. So that's all behind me now. It's like, now we have an opportunity to do this again. Well, rid your mind of what just happened. You're still the champ. You still put in the work. You're still out here having fun. Why not go turn it around on the very next one and win first?
Do you ever, okay, so you're talking about this competitiveness. Is it ever directed at, okay, this guy won 88 and I'm after him, I'm going to go kick his butt? Or are you always just against your horse right here? Or is it ever like, this guy's ahead of me in the standings, I'm going to get him?
I think, especially in our game, like, I feel like our sport's pretty cool. Like, we have a pretty tight camaraderie. Like, we're helping, guys that are on the bubble are almost all helping each other get to rodeos, and like, cause they're all doing the same thing. Like, they're all trying to get to as many rodeos as they can. So you find out this time of year, like, kind of who your friends are. And it's pretty incredible to watch, like, some of these guys that are 14th through 17th that are like almost in a sense rodeoing together, because they're all in the same boat. They're all trying to get to the same rodeos, and it's like, well, like, kind of best man wins. Like, it's like, we got to get to him. So why not? Let's split the charter flight that it's going to take to get to this rodeo, because it's going to be too expensive. We're all trying to do it on our own, or let's drive all night together instead of, doing it by ourselves. Like, you got to stick together. This is a game where it's rodeo, and like, it's not necessarily obviously there's 25 guys in all these events that could easily make the NFR.
Yeah.
And seasons are different for everybody. I mean, hell, you got Jess Pope. He's won the average of the NFR 3 times. He's a reigning world champion. He all year long just has not drawn the right horses, hasn't had things go his way at all. And like, it's finally starting to but like, you just never know what the case is going to be. It's still rodeo. You're still competing on animals. So like, you got multiple brains going on every single time you nod your head. Calf roping, you got 3, you know what I mean? So It's like, if you're trying to chase a certain guy down, or trying to be like a certain guy, or trying to, because what works for him might not work for you. So it's like, if your mentality, mine changes all the time. Sometimes I feel like I need to be serious. I feel like I need to be cracked down. I feel like I need to be in the zone. There's times where I feel like that gets me in more binds than not. And
we were just talking about that.
Relax and have fun.
Yes.
Because this is a fun sport. And if you're not just going with the flow of things and enjoying what you're doing for a living, then it starts to turn into a job. And this is not a job. This is a lifestyle. So the worst thing you can do, I feel like, in the sport of rodeo is turn this into a job, because it is the best job in the world, but it's a lifestyle. Like, you get out here and you start not having fun, that's when things start to go down the tank.
We're already going to have plenty of pressure on ourselves. There's no reason to put extra added pressure on.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. It's you versus you. It's always been that way. So it's like, regardless of what horse you have, tough one, a great one, an easy one, regardless of what calf you have, the one on them, the last one you wanted, it's like, well, just change. You got to change your attitude. You can't always have the same mindset all the time. It's great to always be positive. You always want to be positive. Obviously, you always want to know that you put in the work and that you're here to win. But it's like, if you put so much pressure on yourself because you're 15th or 14th in the world and you've got to chase so-and-so because he's right above you and he's kicking ass and he just seems like he's having fun and drawing all these horses, and you're so caught up with what he's got going on that you can't even focus on what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You've already beat yourself. You've already put lost so much pressure on yourself that it's going to take, it's going to take some crazy stuff to, like, you to get off and be like, wow, like, I'm glad that worked out. Like, it should never be like that. It should be like, nope, like, I don't even know what's going on at this point. I'm not looking at the standings, like whether it's for a gold buckle or making NFR, whatever it is, whatever your goals are. It's like, I have a job. This is my name on the paper. Whenever they call my name, it's my arena. You know, whatever I'm competing against, calf, steer, horse. Yeah, it's my arena. This is I paid to be here. They're calling my name.
That
like,
goes levels.
Now I got to go do what I've been training to do or been thinking about all day, whether this horse is the most eliminating, hard to ride sucker, or hell, put more pressure on it, you know, have the best one on him, have the TV pinner, have the calf that they've already tied, you know, in 7 flat. And it's like, you got to be dialed into your own mind. You know what I mean? You can't be thinking about all these other alternatives because it will beat you every single time.
I'll tell you, Leighton, I've been freaking wanting some calf ropers to talk like you talk right now. Number one, I think what happened, I think you have that mindset subconsciously, but it's different when you say it with your mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
I feel you.
And I think calf ropers say it behind closed doors, but on them, like, you got to give respect where credit's due for when people say it on the internet. It's like, man, I want to be the best.
I think there's kind of this thing in rodeo, like this mantra of where, well, that guy thinks he's going to go win the world. That's cocky, you know? Well, if you don't think you're going to go win the world, or if you don't think you're going to make the NFR, what are you doing out here, dude?
Why
might as well go home.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that too. I mean, like, worried about the guys, oh, I don't want them to think I'm cocky, whatever. Like, if you don't believe in yourself, what are you doing?
Well, if you're out here talking that way and putting people down and not being a cowboy and not helping people, then you're a cocky asshole. And then nobody wants to be your friend. Then everybody talks about you poorly. But if you're out here and you're like, obviously, you're not going to go around saying to everybody that you're going to beat him or you're going to win first. You can do that in your own mind. We have our own closed doors up here for a reason. So you can think that in your mind. I'm not looking at one guy going, I'm going to kick your ass, because it's not, he's still got to go fight his own battle with his mind and his horse or his calf or his steer. I got to do the same. So it's like, more than anything, I've got to look myself in the mirror and be like, where are you at right now? Like, where's our mentality at? Where are we at? Let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to win against ourselves, because I'm feeling tired. You know, I've been driving all night. You know, I had a bad ride last night, bad go, but I've got a new start today. Like, who am I going to be today? Like, I've got to be Leighton Berry. Like, I've got to show up. I've got to be the champ. Like, I've got to be, you know, you start to build yourself up. You start to smile and be positive, and you're like, well, I'm going to go spread some positivity around the locker room right now. I'm going to go, you tell everybody to bear down, and we're going to talk about horses. I'm going to talk about how he's going to kick that horse's ass. And, you know, it's like, I'm going to start to just try to flood positivity through all these guys. That way, whenever I nod my head, it's all coming from me. So like, now I just got to go do my job. Like, it's a good day to be alive. Let's go.
That gets you fired up, dude. I can't wait to make an edit of. He said so many one-liners in here, and then when you went around at the NFR, win a gold buckle, you just say,
he said, "It's my arena."
Yeah. This is my arena.
Yeah.
Boom. Cue the edit.
That's what. Yeah, you know, and like, I haven't put on that many schools, but like, when you're talking to these young kids, and you're like, you know how, like, you know, gun shy they are, and you know, like, they look at you, and you know, they're like, wow, it's so far away, and like, you know, I'm not that good, and it's like, hey, dude, like, if I could say anything to any 12, 13, 14-year-old kid, it's like, it really isn't that far away. Like, it happens so fast, and like, you can do it. And like, all you got to do is believe in yourself, put in the work. And like, that's obviously been around for all the time, but like,
I totally agree.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. Like, you can make it happen.
And you'll see a lot of 12, 13, 14-year-olds that have their parents that are worried about this kid from Texas that does this, or this kid from over here that does this and ropes like this or rides like this. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm sitting over here at Puyallup, Washington. In the grand scheme of things, when I was 14 years old, it didn't matter who was the best. It matters today. You know what I'm saying? You just have fun, enjoy the process.
Changes every year.
Enjoy every win that comes along the way.
Yep.
You know, and take the losses with a smile too, because trust me, if you're not enjoying the whole deal, go find something else to do. Go get you a boat or something, man.
The same for you. Yeah.
That's what I gotta say.
Because this is not, oh, we just lost the game. You know, we got a week until we play this so-and-so again. We got to regroup. It's like, nope. Like, you suck today. Well, tomorrow you get to do it again at a whole different rodeo and a whole different setup.
Sure.
And in front of a whole different crowd, a whole different stock contractor, a whole different money added. Everything changes every single day. So when you wake up in the morning, are you going to still have the attitude that you had because you sucked yesterday? Or is this like, whoa, this is a whole new ballpark. We're in a whole different league today. You know what I mean? Like, this could totally turn around in one snap of a finger.
3 questions left. Second 2 are short.
Okay.
You've said a lot about the stock, and there's again with all guys, there's this appreciation for the horses. So when you hear about something like Butler and Sons, what does that mean for you, or what does that make you feel?
As far as what just happened,
Yeah. Which, if you want to tell, I don't guess you can just say what happened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I don't have all the fine details, but basically the wrong supply of feed was sent to the Butler crew in Elk City, Oklahoma, and, ended up going through the majority of their herd, and what the feed that was in there, these horses can't process and stomach, so it started to basically, kill them off. And it was, when I first heard about it, it's hard. It's one of those tear jerking moments, because the legacy that they have built from generations and generations and generations. And Benny's been there through it all. He's kind of right. Like, I mean, there was Harry Vold, and Harry Vold has since passed, and he was one of those guys that have been around since the first NFR. And Benny's like the last of a dying breed. Like, cowboys ain't dying. Like, cowboys are still around. There's more cowboys now, I think, there's ever been. So that people say that, and that's not true. But Benny Butler is one of the last old school, real deal cowboys. And to have what happened to them, kind of brings a guy to his knee a little bit, because how hard they've worked for not just hundreds of years. It's been around forever. So, and I have no doubt that they'll come back from this, and they've got horses that are alive and well that will be at the NFR, and that'll be awesome. And I hope we can find a way as rodeo athletes to do a huge tribute to them, and they will rebuild. And what's amazing, and that a lot of people don't know, is I've been hearing about a lot of stock contractors that are all coming together to send them one of their good colts, to let them basically just give them a whole nother bloodline to start raising. So, like, the rodeo family is all well and alive. And, for that to happen is obviously the most unfortunate thing you could ever think of, but they're cowboys and they're tough, and they'll see that through.
Well, in a way to transition, I mean, I want to do a Mount Rushmore. Okay, but I want to start with, you can do Mount Rushmore horses. Let's honor horses. Your Mount Rushmore greatest horses of all time, and then you can go into your Mount Rushmore greatest bareback guys.
Bareback riders.
Hey, he's new. A Mount Rushmore of bareback riders, not horses?
Both. He wants both.
I want 2 Mount Rushmores.
Oh, wow.
And Mount Rushmore has 4 faces, so you got to pick 4 horses.
Okay.
4 bareback riders.
Okay. All right.
I have
So
one on my
your
mind.
Mount Rushmore
I'm curious what he says.
of bareback horses. I mean, one in our obviously living presence is F13 Virgil.
Yeah, I was right.
They're just, I mean, you can go back 50 years, you can go forward 50 years. I'm not saying there's not going to be another one like him, because they're making them all the time. They're making, the bloodlines are insane, but you got to put Virgil up there. Everything about that horse, his size, his color, I mean, from his mane to his tail, like, and I finally got to get on him this year in Clovis, California. It was the first horse I got on after a 6-week hiatus after Houston. And the personality that horse has, and he's a true athlete. He turns around and looks at you while you're running your hand, and he goes, oh, and he goes, hey, he lets you know. He looks at you through your soul and lets you know that you're about to be basically taken for the ride of your life.
You better be ready.
You better have your hammer caught, because he has so many different trips, but they're all pretty tough, but amazing. And like, he's at the top for sure. You go down the list, Graded Coconut would probably have to go up there for sure. That's a horse that has basically a lot of these Calgary Stampede horses that you see. The bloodlines come down from Graded Coconut. He was one of the most amazing, electrifying bareback horses of his generation. And he actually didn't go on to have like a extremely long career, as a bucking athlete. He ended up, he's been in the 4-man at Calgary a handful of times, obviously been bucking horse of the world, been in the NFR a handful of times, but then they actually snubbed him up and just made him a breeder. And I couldn't count all the bloodlines, all the horses that we're getting on in the short round here, Puyallup, wherever, the NFR, so many bloodlines would come down from Graded Coconut. Still to this day.
What years was he?
He'd have been, so most of the stuff you see from graded would have been like early 2000s. He just passed away. Don't quote me on this. It might have been last year or the year before. So he was pretty old whenever he passed away, but he was a G. I lose track of the numbers because Calgary's got a year system for all their numbers. But put it this way, they're fixing to come around. So there should be G colts on the ground right now that are 3, I believe, 3 or 4.
Pretty exciting stuff.
So,
That's exciting.
So that's how they do that. Like Agent Links. So this is a fun fact for maybe the people don't know. So like anytime you hear a horse's name from Calgary Stampede, Agent Links, Yippee Kibitz, Zulu Warrior, whatever the first letter of their name starts with is also the first letter of their brand to keep track of their year. So they name when they go through their Z's, it's all Z's. A's are all A's. D's are all D's. Disco Party, like all. Wow. So their brands on their hip are D508, Agents, A91, Yippies, Y92. Like it's a pretty cool deal. And that's the way they keep track of all of them.
So you got Virgil, graded coconut. And I'm trying to make sure I give the horses that have since passed a lot of credit because there are some which
great
is hard
ones,
to do which is the ones you've rode and everything and won so much money on.
Like I said, the bloodlines now are so crazy. It's like there's some horses that are just far better than there's ever been. And, one of my favorite horses is 2708 Nightcrawler, Cullen Pickett's. She's the reigning bucking horse of the world, and she's not very big. She's really cool. She's a pretty bay horse, flashy mane and tail, and she's one of those that just loves what she does. Like she's so calm and gentle. She looks like a horse you could just saddle, and you probably could. She's so gentle. Like she looks like a horse you could saddle and ride the American flag around the arena with her mane flowing. Like she's got a cute little head on her. Like she just almost seems like someone's just grooming her like a performance horse every day. Like she never has any knots in her mane or tail. She doesn't get fuss or fight in the buck and chute when you're pulling her. She's built good, and then she goes out there and man, like you got to stub a toe pretty hard not to be 90 plus on her. They've won a lot on that horse. I've only been on her once. It was my rookie year. She was still kind of a baby, and so was I, and we were like 89. And it was at that point was, for me and her both, was one of the coolest like starts of our deal. And she's one I'd like to have like at the 10th round of the NFR, but she's kind of in her own league right now. There's a reason why she'd win bucking horse of the world over a horse like Virgil. She's amazing. Not Virgil, obviously, is still been and has been great and still is great, but Nightcrawler's got to go up there.
Last
and then, this fourth one's going to stub me a little bit. This is a horse that I've never been on, but I think you got to give her so much credit because like you watch her in person, you've just never seen a horse buck this hard. And that's Killer B and Butler and Sons, 570 Killer B. Like I said, I always told myself no matter where I had that horse drawn, whether it be at a $5,000 at a rodeo or at the 10th round of the NFR, that I'd go get on her because she was the type of horse that bucked so hard. A lot of guys would not go get on her because it was almost like a deal where it's not just like how hard she's going to buck or not. Like she could kill you. Like she bucks. She's the most unrealistic vertical bucking horse like that there's ever been. And, I've seen guys make some career, high wins on her, and some guys get bucked off harder than I've ever seen. And she actually passed away last year. And what's pretty cool about the story of the Butler and Sons though, for their up and coming herd is obviously they lost a lot of horses, and I don't know. I haven't been told how many exactly or how many young ones, old ones, brood mares, whatever it was, but there's one, horse out of Killer B and Tiger Warrior, which Tiger Warrior is an extremely hard horse to ride of Calgary Stampedes. It's usually in the bronc riding, and it's a big scare. I mean, think of a horse called Tiger Warrior of Calgary Stampedes. It's a monster, and it's a horse that bronc riders have a lot of trouble with. And there's a Killer B Tiger Warrior baby that didn't refuse to eat the grain that was being fed to that ended up killing a bunch of their horses. And this is like I said, I could be fact checked on this. This is just what I've been hearing from pretty good sources, but right now there's like a baby on the ground that's a Killer B and Tiger Warrior colt that we are all real excited to see what the heck happens in the next 5 years, because it could be the most buckinest thing on earth. But all in all, I think if you look up at Mount Rushmore and you got Virgil graded, Nightcrawler and Killer Bee up there. I mean, any one of those horses is kind of 90 or nothing, and that'd be pretty cool. But I guess we got riders.
Yeah.
Bobby Moat kind of reinvented. Let me go back further. So, well, like for my generation, like growing up, like Bobby Moat was the first guy that I kind of looked up to. He's a 4-time world champion and longer legged guy that, you know, just what had a league of his own at a certain time and point. Was a force to be reckoned with for years and made the NFR 12 or 13 times, maybe more. And, you know, kind of set the standard for bareback riders. And then obviously you got Casey Field that came in kind of right at the last leg of Bobby's career. And he really reinvented bareback riding as far as explosive feet and setting his feet with authority and having style too. You know, like Casey's just like, you know, from 2000, to whatever it was, 11 through 14, like he just nobody could touch that guy. He was on a league of his own, and then to do that and almost go on a little bit of a hiatus and come back 5 years later and win 2 more, it just says all you need to say about the GOAT of bareback riding. Obviously, have a lot of respect for Casey. Glad to call him one of my close friends. He'd definitely have to be up there. You know, Bruce Ford is the guy that you date back to. I can't recall the years that he won the world, but he's actually the one that really invented the guys that would stay back further and spur up. Like, because back then riggins were so different, horses were so different. It was more or less like a sitting up game and trying to just spur up their neck. Bruce was like the first guy to sit way back on a horse, and he had real long legs like Bobby. So, he was the one, we owe it to him basically why bareback riding evolved into what it turned into.
Wow.
Basically.
That's cool.
You know, and like, just like the horse deal, the 4th one's pretty tough, but, one of my all-time favorites, and I think just for his longevity would have to be Will Lowe. Will Lowe has been doing this since before I was born and won his world titles in early 2000s. He's a 3-time world champion. He's the toughest damn guy on the planet. I've seen Killer Bee, I thought, end his career. Borderline thought it might have ended his life. And he got up and was smoking a cigarette not 2 minutes later in the locker room. And he's unbelievably tough. He's one of the truest cowboys I've ever met. So yeah, I think you put Bruce, Casey, Bob, and Will up there, and you got on those horses matched up, you got a pretty cool bareback
all 4
riding
going over
Rushmore.
90 probably.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good group. And obviously there's a lot of old legends, horses and guys that I could put up there, but those are the ones that come to mind. And yeah, pretty cool.
Cool. Last question.
Okay.
You had something?
Like 5 questions ago, when he was talking about, he was telling a story about how they put it on the wall, the 4-man. I think you were talking about Houston, right? They put it on the 4-man.
Yeah.
He accidentally said Calgary. Can you edit it in if he says like in Houston? Can you edit that or not?
I'll make sure to cut it out. I'll make sure to tell the story.
He started about it.
I was
He started
wondering
it by saying in Calgary, and he said they put 4 on the wall.
Yes,
I did say that. I didn't say Houston.
No, yeah, you said on Calgary, but I thought you were meant Houston because I heard him.
I meant to say Houston.
Yeah, at Calgary, don't you?
Well, that's the edit right there.
Well, there you go.
At Calgary, you pick them.
At Calgary, you pick them. Right.
Houston, it's set. Yeah.
Houston, it's set. They put it on the wall right there, and you knew when you won 3rd, what you were about to get on.
Yes.
And you won 1st.
Yes.
Put on that buckle right there. Yes, sir.
Last question for you.
Okay.
I already feel like I know. I can comfortably say you want your name to be cemented with some of the greatest ever to do it. That's just I just from this conversation. That's not too far of a stretch to say. For your career, I know that may be even too. You're not thinking about it too much, but for your career, what are your goals? What do you got to do? What would make you feel fulfilled if, like, at the end of your career?
You know, and like I said, I've been kind of talking on in, and I'll try to keep this one short. Basically for me, like, I do have goals. Like, I write them down monthly, weekly. I've got a goal board in my house, in my gym, notepads in my truck. Like, I'll just write things down all the time. I'm big on that. I have a certain amount of gold buckles I want to win. I have, all these things that I've got numbers like to the T, obviously, but I think when I get to the end of my career, whatever God allows that to be, and obviously I'd love to go out on my terms. And in this game, you never know if that's going to happen or not. But to me, and this is basically quoting Casey's dad, Louis Field, who I had never had the pleasure of actually personally meeting, but he's always been one of my heroes. And I think if I get to the end of my career, if all my friends can say that I was a great friend and a great cowboy and, you know, an upstanding person that was never afraid to help anybody and always generated positivity and always had a lot of fun and was just a true cowboy, I don't really think it matters if I make the NFR the amount of times I want to, or win the amount of averages or gold buckles that I want to, or how long my career lasts. I think if it ended all tomorrow, if all my buddies could, you know, say to my face, dead or alive, that all those things, I was a great cowboy and a great friend. That's really the only goals that I have. I've got you know, one of the best ladies in the world I just got married to in April, and I've got a baby on the way in April, and not many people know about that, but
Congratulations.
I've you know, set my standards to basically I owe everything to them, and I'm going to do everything in my power to continue my career and be a great cowboy. Learning a lot of business. Everything's been really cool the last few years, and I do want to be successful in and outside of rodeo. But yeah, I think if I can just have everybody say at my graveside that I was a great cowboy and a great friend and a great man, I think that would accomplish all the goals across the board. I'd be able to check them all off the list.
Doesn't get any better than that right there, Cole.
Appreciate you. Maybe when we can come get a lift in at the house, film a vlog or something for his channel, and see that goals was written down on the paper.
Come on.
Give me some months.
Well, next time I'm around San Angelo, I'm coming to you guys. And when you guys are up around Weatherford, come up there and we'll get it in. We got a Murph to do, I believe.
Which I'm glad, after hearing you talk about just get out of the freaking arena. I'm glad you weren't there when I did my Murph, bro.
Wait till you see the video. Check the video. You're gonna laugh. You're
get out of that sweat puddle. Get up.
Yeah, literally.
That's awesome.
Appreciate you doing the podcast, bro.
Dude, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Leighton.
It's a lot of fun.